mummified, and people rub the fur off of them. Or in other words, this is just like on TV. The weight loss commercials, you know, before and after. And Bob lost a lot of weight. I don't think I'd want to lose weight with his kind of diet. And now, everybody okay? Mold or bacteria to act on them, which means they may last forever. And that's why we are still technically classified as a fallout shelter, allowed to keep the old... The same face that you see on the dollar bill. His nest, tail feathers up, and he's watching you. As we step to the top, rocks from excavations were taken to the surface, ground up, mixed in with cement, and poured down through a 65-foot hole that they drilled. When the cement mix landed in the box, they could open up the slide door and load their wheelbarrows, and for $1.27 an hour, left behind a lot of permanent footprints. Imagine landing in one hand, traveling the other. It's surprising they didn't leave more footprints. And how is everybody doing? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look close, you can still see the marks from the original 25-cent dope on a rope tours. But one person at a time knew it wasn't making Walter rich, and he went and talked to the government in 1935. They needed to keep men working through the Depression and sent over, so you might notice how well preserved it is. And now Walter thinks he'll become rich by charge down at a time. And all he has to do is stand by the hole to say, thank you very much, enjoy your tour, and we'll see you. Total darkness, total terror, and maybe why she tore off 2/3 of one claw in that crack right there. When you get back up and see our display, you'll see the semi-fossilized 2/3 of her. Now ask your mom, where does the Easter Bunny live? Did she tell you? Oh, look at the helpless look on her face. Yeah, I can see. I don't have to understand. I can see. You don't know. Yeah, I do. In a hole. But what hole? Look there. His ear, tail, posing for white chocolate rabbits, and keeping eggs by the back door. That's why I know it is the Easter Bunny. And as you get older, we can understand why he would be so... Look up. You might happen to see the two eyes and the smile from a Ninja Turtle. The children say Michelangelo, because he's the one that wears an orange bandana across his eyes. You see the turtle? Watch your head for turtles now. Bet you don't hear that every day. This is our last tunnel. This one took a year to blast open and excavate. Cavern. This is the largest dry cavern in the United States, the third largest dry cavern in the world, and only 3% of the world's caverns have come down here a lot, so I pasted out to be sure. And on your right, these formations are known as cave coral. Formations of caverns are pretty much called by what they look like. This reminds us of living coral you find in the ocean. The difference being they're all mineral deposits and never were living organisms like ocean coral is. Although later, I'll be showing you evidence of and the last eruption was nearly 1,000 years ago. We don't expect any rocks. They made up a lot of stories. And one of those stories continues to this day. In our translation sheets, that hole above our heads is still called a triple-channeled waterfall. You might wonder, why would we name a waterfall Cathedral Dome? When you look inside the dome, you see evidence of a different way of forming, circular erosion. As the ocean came in and we became mountaintop, tides up and down left behind not only the domes, but it's also the activity that hollowed out our caverns in the first place. Different than caverns in the east or caverns in general that are formed from underground river flow or horizontal erosion, ours was a vertical or up and down erosion. Another unique feature of the caverns, just something you don't get to hear from the other tour guides. But now as we step up, you get to hear a little of our founding history. In 1927, a gentleman by the name of Walter Peck who was a woodcutter for the Santa Fe Railroad, and he was on his way to a poker game. Looked like gold, silver, and diamonds. The samples were sent for testing. The closest place was in Prescott, over 100 miles away from here, and it was taking a long time for the samples to get there and for the report to return on horseback. Obviously, a Rockweiler. Our jokes are good. You remember the jokes and not the cabins. And on your left and right, ancient waterways. The one on your right is where I take folks down on an explorer tour to show them some wonderful crystal formations. For you to get an idea of what you would see down there, we brought up some samples, and in the center of our display is one of the most unusual formations I've even seen in the caverns. We call it the teacup handle formation. On the plaque below it is the big word halictites, a Greek word that means hollow or horn. The handle that you see looped over is hollow, like a soda straw. 10,000 years, they tell us, it takes to create something like that. And that means there could be enough room down there to put in an American football kit. Now, altogether, it might be wide enough to include a bench or two. Sorry, guys, no room left for the cheerleaders. That's okay by me. I kind of imagine all that. Now we come around to the other reason why we call it child. And our second wedding occurred in the year 2000. Maybe you'll see some pictures. One shows how the bouquet was placed. But right now, I just want you to notice how well preserved it is. If you compare it to the one on the lower right, this was from a later wedding. This bouquet left the caverns and then came back down after 2 days. While the one you see up here has never left the caverns. And the reason it is so well preserved after 12 years is because we have less than 6% humidity down here. It is in fact so dry that bacteria cannot survive on its own for more than 72 hours. And that also means no chain of life. One of the reasons why you don't see anything like bats, bugs, bears crawling your plant around. But there's another good reason for that. They don't know. Now let's say you decide to hold your wedding down here. Renew your vows or hold another type of ceremony. Where do you think you might spend your honeymoon? Perhaps it would be in our newest hotel room. April 1st celebrated its 2nd anniversary. You can actually make reservations and spend the night underground in the caverns. Now the room sleeps up to 6, but I don't recommend that many down here in your honeymoon. The cost, $700 a night for a couple, and $100 per person on top of that. We'll talk more about the room later as we walk on the other side, and you get another peek inside also. Once again, I want to caution, watch your steps come back everywhere. Well, obvious to us. What we're looking at is iron oxide, or oxide of iron. And either way, it's a bunch of rusty rocks. Poor Walter never got rich, but we'll talk more about him later. Because by now, you're noticing things that look a little out of place. 1962, the elevator became operational. And it was just in time for something called the Cuban Missile Crisis. During the middle of the Cold War, with the then USSR, President Kennedy does nasty tasting water to go along with survival crackers and a great name for candy, carbohydrate supplements. Such a great name, I tell children to remember it, try it on their parents, because carbohydrate supplements makes candy sound like it's good for you. But I also tell the children they can't have this candy unless they know how to operate the can opener. I love the funny looks I get on young people's faces when they see the old can opener. Go to the movies? Popcorn formations is what we call them. I don't think that lime calcium carbonate would have much popcorn taste no matter how much butter you pour on. These types of formations, along with the cave core, are created from condensation. And hydrologists tell us it takes millions of years of tiny droplets of water to leave behind the minerals that would create even these small displays you see throughout the caverns. About this time, first round, we could actually squeeze in 2 American football fields on this side. Now, all that room, these wonderful echoes, wouldn't this be the perfect place to hold a rock concert? Okay, maybe not hitting the hard. Oh, and when you step up here, you will be able to see just how the oils are traveling. The type of winking action that occurs in a candle or oil lamp. Take notice my hands right up the wall, causing all that discoloration and damage. 6 million years, they tell us, it took to create snowball panels. As you can see, it took us 40 years of touching and start messing it up. Nothing we know of can clean this without causing more damage. The best we can do is try to prevent people from touching them further and continue watching how the oils spread up the wall. And now I have your attention up there. You might notice we do have a rather large rock sitting above our heads. And now you might be noticing it looks like it wants to be down here. But don't worry, it's okay. I am prepared. I have the first aid kit right here. In 1958, they didn't know where the air came from, or where it went to. So they brought down several red smoke bombs, obtained from the Army, took them beyond those lowest lights, and at the timed intervals, they began to set them off. They went up to the surface and set up camps in the area to watch for that smoke to appear. And after a week of staring at the ground, I'm told they all got bored and gave up. But 2 weeks later, first faint phone calls came in, reports of red smoke pouring into the Grand Canyon at Havasu Falls, 40 miles away if you could go in a straight line. But to get there, you think it's okay to be bald if you're over 150 years old. Actually, he lost the fur because the guys that discovered him had to pass him around from hand to hand, so you can guess where the fur was left. But that's our mummy.